Period. Peace, y'all. It's me, Empress Arena Nicole, arenanicole.com, Divine Intervention Show and Podcast, Ethereal Wellness and Sankofa's Naturals. With that being said, we are here with Divine Intervention Show, episode 6 from season 2. And our topic this evening is withdrawal as a biological strategy, not avoidance. So we are going to be talking about avoidance today. And this is a rather more challenging topic for me because I have some disdain when it comes to people who are avoidant. So let's get into it and let's see what we can uncover in this podcast. If you want to come to any stage that we're on, whether Facebook, Clubhouse, simply raise your hand. I will bring you up and we can talk about it, period. Now, one of the most misunderstood behaviors in human relationships is withdrawal. When someone pulls back or becomes quiet or asks for space, and sometimes they suddenly reduce their engagement, most people interpret that as what? We interpret it as rejection, right? Because we assume that a person is avoiding responsibility, okay? Avoiding communication or avoiding the relationship itself. Now, in some cases, possibly many, what we call avoidance is actually something far more biological. It is a nervous system response. Okay. So this evening, we're going to be flipping the script on what avoidance is and try to, unlock the key to a door that so many close and we just don't want to look back from. You know what? They don't want to talk to me. They don't want to communicate. I'm done. Right. So let's see if we can get another perspective on this. Okay. Human beings are not designed to remain in constant relational engagement without interruption. Our nervous systems move through cycles of activation and recovery. Okay. So when those cycles are respected, right, relationships remain sustainable. When they are ignored, our bodies eventually force distance. Okay. So withdrawal is often the body's ways of regulating itself when the level of stimulation in a relationship exceeds what the nervous system can tolerate. This stimulation can come from conflict, emotional intensity, chronic demands, or even too much closeness. Okay. So without recovery, the brain detects prolonged overload. It shifts into protective states designed to reduce what? Incoming cortisol levels, incoming stress. So, to me, okay, so to me, I definitely understand how you need space because I'm a person who loves and enjoys my peace, my solitude, my isolation. I love it. And some people may feel like, oh, she's doing this because of that, or, whatever their insecurities tell them, I'm fine with it because I'm not going to argue with anyone's insecurities, right? But I can't say I don't like when other people need space from me because I'm not really a person that attaches myself. But if I have someone close to me and they're like being a little shifty and their energy is shifty, I'm starting to think, okay, so what else do you have going on where you're prioritizing everything except for me? I think we can do a personal relationship example. That'll be okay here. It doesn't feel good when someone, even though when someone's choosing self, they don't owe you an explanation. And this is something that we all must learn, because I don't feel like I owe anyone an explanation when I'm choosing myself, but I need to be able to receive. And this is a part of that lifetime healing journey and evolving journey where you're able to receive that if you can't take it, why do you think someone else can? You get what I'm saying? So if I'm a person who understands I need space, why is it a problem when someone else needs space? Right? So that's something I always remind myself of. Okay. So from a neuroscience perspective, this involves the what? Autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system regulates survival responses in the body, okay? And operates, okay? Largely outside of what? Conscious control. So when humans feel safe and socially connected, right? The ventral vagal system supports engagement curiosity, empathy, and communication. Now, when the nervous system perceives threat or overwhelm, our physical vessels begin shifting away from connection and towards protection, right? And I definitely 100% as a woman understand this because some people may read energy as, oh, this person is bougie, this person thinks they're better than, this person thinks they're too good. And that may not be the case. This person may feel like, you know what, I'm overwhelmed. So I'm going to stay to myself and I'll come around when I can, when I have the energy to do so, and things of that nature, right? So that's important to understand other people's perspectives and how they operate. Okay? Excuse me. And for other people, that protection looks like um it's taking a form of activation, right? They become what? Reactive, argumentative, or emotionally intense, right? So I can honestly say for other people, the protective response is withdrawal. Their nervous system reduces engagement in order to what? Stabilize, in order to get balance, harmony, my God. So I was just in a room and someone was speaking on this kind of sort of a little. But she was speaking on the fact that when you leave or walk away, people see it as cowardly, or people see it as you don't care, or you had never had any care because you didn't show concern when you left. And like I said, I myself, I'm a leaver. I'm definitely a leaver, but I would not ever appreciate anyone leaving me. I would not appreciate anyone going away from me. And it doesn't matter how many years of training I've had, it doesn't matter my level of knowledge. I'm speaking as a human. This is a podcast on divine intervention. This is how we grow. This is how we heal. This is how we learn. And I identify with myself that it doesn't feel good for anyone to just disappear from my life, right? With no explanation. Even though I'm a person who's disappeared from many people's lives without explanation. Some may call it karma, some may call it different things, but today we're talking about withdrawal, and what it looks like when it comes to avoidance. Okay. So some people sometimes call this what? A dorsal vagal response. Okay. Because what? Because in this state, our bodies slow down, they reduce what? They reduce social energy, like the desire to talk to other people, the desire to go out, the desire to be around others, okay? And it seeks distance from what? Stimuli, okay? And this is not a strategic choice in the way that people often assume. This is a what? This is a physiological attempt to restore equilibrium. Okay? So like I just spoke on, I definitely understand and overstand because I'm a person that leaves. I'm a person that needs to isolate. I'm a person that can't take too much stimulation. I might be in the paint for like 5 or 10 minutes, at the max 30 minutes. And after that, it's like I'm worn out. I'm tired. So anything that comes out of me after that is complete exhaustion if I'm not leaving. It's complete frustration. It's the anger. It's like, you know what, after this, I'm leaving. I'm not coming back. It's the low vibrational self-talk that I start having with myself before I've ever left a situation. And sometimes it can be a high vibrational situation where it's like, oh, we're out at a concert or a community event and it's just too much stimulation. I'm ready to go home. Right? Well, we just got here. I understand. So know what? I'm going to sit over here and let me get some balance within myself, because at this point, 10 people hugged me and 10 people didn't give me the energy. So now I'm feeling all types of things and I need to go sit down. So I definitely understand it. But we're about to dive a little bit deeper into why I started off with I have a lot of disdain towards avoidant people, right? And maybe people have the same disdain towards me. That's a possibility. Just even like when I'm reading through my notes or even on the podcast, it's just like some self accountability here. It was like, you know what? Maybe people feel that way towards me as well because I'm a leaver. I get overstimulated. I don't really go to a lot of people's events. I support in other ways, and that's just not my thing. Right. So the problem is that what? Okay. The problem is that withdrawal rarely happens in isolation. Okay. It happens inside of relationships. Okay. We are what? where another person is still seeking engagement, right? So when one nervous system moves forward, right? When one nervous system moves, right? And another person is like moving towards connection, but the other one is moving towards, let me get away from this because it's too much for me. It's a pattern, right? That many people find deeply confusing. And we call it what? We call it ghosting. We call it ghosting. We call it avoidance. We call it cowardice. We call it somebody getting played. You got played. We call it all types of things, right? And we're breaking down a neuroscience basically of ghosting. We're breaking down a neuroscience basically of avoidant behavior, like a neurotypical avoidant person. We're breaking down that behavior behind that because it's something that needs to be understood. It's something that I felt I needed to have more empathy for, even though I know it's aspects of my personality that are completely avoidant. But I cannot, even it doesn't matter how conscious you are, how spiritual you are, at some points you can't see yourself in the way that another person may view you, right? And it doesn't mean that their view of you is correct, because I always felt that the view that you have for yourself is the most important imperative view that you will have, right, ever in this lifetime. It is not to say that other people's viewpoints don't matter, but caskets do not come with bunk beds. They're not on your healing journey. They're not having to answer or get their heart weighed at the end of your existence. None of that, right? So keep that in mind when you're moving or navigating through this existence, that your opinion of yourself matters the most. So if you feel like there's aspects of your personality that's avoidant and you don't like being that way, this is the session for you. Excuse me. The podcast for you. I'm like, what? The session Empress, huh? Okay, I apologize. So one person experiences distance and interrupts it, right? It's like an interruption in the relationship, because if I want to connect with you, yet I don't know I'm overstimulating you. You're not giving me enough information to go on. You're saying little things like stress or anxiety, but you're not saying you are the cause of my anxiety with the way you are handling this situation. But you're saying things in a gaslighting manner, like, "Oh, I'm aware of or I'm only aware of your response, but I'm not aware of my behavior." This is going to cause conflict. So this is going to make someone either want to engage with you more or pull away. Yet in this context or scenario that we're speaking on one person experiencing distance and the other person interpreting it as what? As abandonment. Okay, their nervous system becomes activated. They pursue what? Conversation, clarity, reassurance, or repair, right? And I had to learn that no matter how bad I wanted to pursue conversation, clarity, reassurance, or repair, that's not what the other person wanted. So I'm the kind of person that's like, be free to navigate to your preferences, because I am not going to chase you for clarity or anything else that you do not want to give me. And that's ego. I don't know if it's egotistical, but that's definitely ego. That's me. I'm using myself as an example, being an ego, saying, you know what? And the other person as well, we're going to get into it, because I'm like, wait a minute. Yes, we're going to get into it, because even though they're overstimulated, they're still not considering you. They're choosing distance over connection. And we're not talking about the worst case scenario of being extremely disrespected or anything like that. Maybe a slight disagreement, maybe something they feel overstimulated by, and it is not to diminish anyone feeling overstimulated, because that's a real thing and it happens to the best of us. Okay, um so let's be solid in that it happens to the best of us. It's a real thing. Was that someone raising their hand? Let me see. Not sure. I'm coming back to Clubhouse, so if that was someone raising their hand, um I will let you on stage, but oh, no one raised their hand. No one raised their hand. Okay, whatever. Oh, okay. That took me off track, guys. That took me off track. I usually never get off track. I apologize. So they pursue conversation, clarity, reassurance, or repair. Meanwhile, the withdrawal person experience the pursuit as additional pressure. They feel like, oh, you're chasing me, you're pressuring me. Their nervous system feels even more overwhelmed and move further away. Like, let me run away from them. They're crazy. They won't let me breathe. They're chasing me. They won't let me navigate. They won't let me do anything to reset myself, right? Now, being honest and being real, we're always 100 on this, very clear, very clear. I do personally feel like people that are avoidant use it as an excuse. Even though I understand the neuroscience part, because that's literally sometimes that's all it is, neuroscience. And yes, so know what we need to be more understanding. But if someone is feeling like that they can't be in a relationship because you're overstimulating them and it's going to make them run to the next person or run away, then maybe they shouldn't be in relationships. I don't feel, in my opinion, that avoidant people deserve relationships. I don't feel like the completely avoid, like the avoidance that if you say something to them, instead of being accountable, they run away. And then they run to the easiest thing where they don't have to be accountable. They don't have to give anything to the relationship. That's what I'm speaking on. So to not be fooled with someone who's actually feeling extremely overwhelmed and feeling pressure by someone who won't let them breathe and let the situation, you know what I'm saying, regulate itself. Sometimes you need a little bit of space to regulate itself, but that space should not be going without being announced. But my whole thing is that if you want space, I'm going to give you the entire world, because I don't have time for people who don't want to work on themselves, who are still running from accountability, who don't want to face themselves in the mirror, who don't want to heal what's going on inside of them. You know what I mean? So that's my personal opinion. And it has nothing to do with anything. Okay. So what develops is a cycle that relationship researchers often call the pursue withdrawal dynamic. One person moves closer in order to restore connection, the other one moves away in order to restore regulation. Both are trying to stabilize the relationship the only way their nervous system knows best. So they feel like, oh, if I go away, if I stay away, then guess what? If I stay away, then they're going to forget about why they were mad at me, or we won't have to speak on it, and things of that nature. That's what may happen. Okay. In other words, some persons feel like, oh, well, if I don't talk to them about it, then it was just going to fall apart. We need to just get this, conversation so we can work together in this relationship and keep it harmony. Okay. Yet, because the strategies move in opposite direction, the cycle intensifies rather than resolves. Period. So, this is why understanding withdrawal as a biological strategy matters. When withdrawal is misinterpreted as avoidance or lack of care, it triggers what? Here we go. It triggers blame. Okay. The withdrawn person is labeled disengaged, emotionally unavailable, a coward, unwilling to communicate. Okay. That accusation alone increases stress in the nervous system that was already overloaded. What often gets lost in these moments is that the withdrawn person may actually still care deeply about the relationship, which I doubt. Okay. The distance is not always about disinterest, it's about capacity. But you know what? That's their favorite line. People that's avoiding, I don't have the capacity. I don't have the capacity. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have the capacity. But they had the capacity for everything else, right? They just don't have the capacity when it's time for them to give of themselves. Okay. So keep that in mind as well, because both things can be true, but you just had to figure out where to apply them to. Because everything we're saying is a divine truth, but you're going to have to figure out what information to use for your own existence if you decide to use it. Okay. As to not blame anyone for anything. All this information is true. It's honest. It's straightforward. That's what it's always going to be. But it's your job to decide how it's going to work for you in your situations, if ever. Okay. So human beings have limits in their ability to process emotional information. When those limits are exceeded repeatedly without recovery, the brain begins what? Conserving energy by shutting down certain relationship functions. Communication becomes harder, emotional language becomes inaccessible. Even empathy can temporarily decrease. This is not because the person lacks empathy. It is because the brain has shifted into a conservation mode where survival processes take priority over relational ones. Another factor that drives withdrawal is chronic relational load. Many relationships unintentionally place uneven emotional demands on one person. One individual may become the primary processor, stabilizer, or mediator in a relationship. And that's a role that I'm tired of playing, okay? They carry more responsibility for emotional conversations, conflict resolution, and regulation. Now, over time, this creates fatigue, emotional exhaustion, empathy burnout, okay? Because emotional fatigue is rarely dramatic in the beginning. It builds gradually as small moments of overload accumulate. I'm trying to tell y'all this is a real life thing, and I'm experiencing this thing, okay? At first, the person may simply need short periods of solitude to recover, right? Yet, if the relational structure does not change, those recovery periods grow longer and more frequent, right? And it was like, I would never ghost anyone. I would never leave anyone hanging. I would never hurt anyone intentionally. That's not my thing unless you did something egregious. Yet, I can say that I had to pull myself out of somewhere that I wanted to be because I felt like the load was too heavy for me. I couldn't carry it anymore. I couldn't carry it to capacity anymore. Does not mean I don't love that person. I absolutely love that person with everything in my body. But I had to pull away. And the longer I felt they did not reach out to me, the longer I felt like, you know what, I'm gonna stay away. Because apparently my presence means nothing to you. And that was all I needed to know. Right? It's not about playing a game. It's not about tit for tat. It's literally about people not giving you the grace that you give them. And grace is free. But people want tons and tons of grace and space and time for them. Yet, when it comes to them giving the same thing, it may not look, I guess, the way we want it to look. So they say, right? Because I believe that a lot of things can be true. Yet, you know what it feels like for reciprocity to happen. You know what it feels like for grace to happen. Okay? So, keep that in mind because if the relational structure does not change, those recovery periods can go on and just go on forever and you never go back to your relationship. Okay? Because eventually withdrawal becomes the only available strategy for protecting the nervous system from continued depletion. And I'm trying to tell you, when I say I felt exhausted, I felt depleted. I felt exhausted. I felt like I wasn't safe. My nervous system was a mess. And that's not a safe place for anyone to be. Right? And that's not love. Love doesn't do that to you. That's codependency. That's control. That's fear. That's not love. That's not something that can make you grow and sustain yourself. Right? And it's okay to pull back your energy until you feel safe enough to re-engage with people. Some people you may never feel safe with them again. And unfortunately, that's just what it is. It doesn't make them a horrible person. And some people are horrible people for how they treated you. Some people treated you horrible. Their behavior was trash. Their behavior were egregious, right? But we're not just speaking on that. We're speaking on it in general, relationships in general. We're not just speaking on people who feel like, that you feel they horrible, they ghosted. No, because it's so much deeper than just that. Okay? Because another reason withdrawal is so misunderstood is that the modern culture tends to pathologize distance. Okay? We do pathologize it, right? Because our culture and our social narratives promote the idea that constant communication equals healthy connections, right? Yet biologically, this assumption is completely inaccurate. 100%. Sustainable relationships require both engagement and recovery, right? So this is something that I miss. And this is something that I miss in my person. Is that I would say, I would put something out there and he wouldn't respond to it all the time right away. Or I would put or he would give me something and I didn't have to respond to it right away. Right? And that was the respect that we have for each other because we didn't put that demand on each other right there in the moment. We say, whenever you get time, can you respond to this? Or is it okay if I ask you a question right now? Are you preoccupied? Are you busy? This is how you sustain a connection, right? And that's what I respect in that level of connection. The consideration. Yet when the consideration turns disappears and it's overstimulation on both ends, it's time to separate. It's time to recover. Right? And like I said, sometimes you just never recover. Because you sit back and you look at things and it's like, wow, you know, and that's okay. That's okay. Okay. Think of the nervous system like a muscle. Okay. Muscles strengthen through cycles of effort and rest. If effort is continuous and rest is eliminated, injury occurs, right? So human connections operate on the same principle. Distant is not always the opposites of intimacy. In many cases, it is the mechanism that preserves it. When people are allowed to step away and regulate their nervous system, they return to connection with more clarity, patience, and capacity. When that space is denied or criticized, the nervous system remains stuck in overload. The relationship begins to feel unsafe. And I be darned if I ever recommend that anyone stay somewhere where they don't feel safe. Because understanding, overstanding withdrawal requires shifting the question we ask when distant appears. Instead of asking, why are you avoiding this? The more useful question becomes, what level of stimulation is your nervous system trying to recover from? This question reframes the situation from blame to curiosity. It opens the possibility that both people in the relationship may be responding to the same stress in different ways. Of course, not all withdrawal is healthy. Some people withdraw in order to avoid accountability or emotional responsibility, like I said previously. And I'm saying it again, not to reiterate it over and over, but distinguishing those situations require careful observation, of patterns, recognition over time. Healthy withdrawal usually includes an eventual return. Okay? The person takes space, regulates themselves, and then re engages with greater capacity for the conversation or repair. Avoidant withdrawal, on the other hand, often becomes permanent distant without resolution because they're coward. They're cowardly. Avoidant withdrawal becomes permanent because they're cowardly. They don't want to face what they've done. They don't want to apologize. They don't want to resolute. They feel like they found something easier where they don't have to put all that energy into it. Maybe you didn't look a certain way that they wanted you to look. Maybe you didn't act a certain way they wanted you to act. Maybe that was their reason just to be able to go. Maybe they're living a double life like Hannah Montana. We would never know because they're so avoidant that they just leave and disappear without a trace. Like the show Without a Trace, you know? Um, the difference is not the presence of distance. The difference is whether the distance leads back to connection. Okay? Because what many relationship needs is not less withdrawal, okay, but more understanding of why it happens. When both people can recognize withdrawal as a nervous system response rather than a personal rejection, the pursuit withdrawal cycle what begins to soften. The person seeking connection can slow down their urgency. The person needing distance can communicate their need for recovery without shame. And the relationship can develop a rhythm that includes closeness and space, right? So this is how you identify whether they're just being avoidant and they're just being an asshole. Okay? Because they come back. And they don't come back on no type time like, oh, la, 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 la. No, they come back wanting to restore. They come back explaining. They don't even leave without explaining. They tell you that this is too much for me. I don't want to do this right now. They don't say F you. I don't ever want to see you again. They don't say none of that. They just let you know that, you know what? You might be overstimulated, but I'm overloaded. I'm at capacity. I gave all I can give. Because at this point, I don't know what to give you. And I need to give some stuff to myself. Right? Is it selfish? Hell yeah. But guess what? Without choosing who? The most selfless thing you can do for yourself is to be selfish. And I'm not talking about in a selfish way where you're out there hurting people and taking from people and not giving to people. I'm talking about in a way where you're pouring into yourself. So when you go out there in the world, you got something to give if you need to give something. You're full of love and stuff like that. You get what I'm saying? So that's what I'm speaking on, period. So human connection becomes sustainable when both of those movements are allowed. Withdrawal, when understood properly, is not always the end of a connection. But I'm not promoting people leaving, running in and out of your life. This is not that song. What's it going to be? Okay. Sometimes it's the nervous system's attempt to protect possibility of connections in the future. With that being said, I appreciate y'all coming through to Divine Intervention Show, episode 6, season 2. My name is Empress Coach Rena Nicole, RenaNicole.com, Divine Intervention Show and podcast, The Love Experiences, Ethereal Wellness, and Sankofa's Naturals. With that being said, you can find me anywhere. If you want to come on a podcast, let me know. Head to my website, hit contact us now, fill out a form. Let me know what you're thinking of. We could collaborate. If you want to get me on your podcast, do the same thing. With that being said, love, light, prosperity, peace, stay woke, and make sure that y'all stay blessed. Period.